Good morning, everybody. Happy Wednesday. And who is excited to learn a little bit about OnBase 17, the latest and greatest release from Hyland software? If you can hear us, please raise your hand or give a little shout out in the box in the chat window. Let us know you can hear us loud and clear and that there aren't seeing any issues. And then you can see our opening screen. Looks like we've got a couple hands raised. Who can see the chat and chat back to us? Hey, thank you so much, guys, for your feedback. We appreciate that. With that, we will get started. Today presenting, it will be Chris Krause, Manager of Professional Services, and Jennifer Hanquin, our Senior Support Specialist. And today we're going to cover very quickly some of the basic things about our webinar presentation, which is, of course, you guys are muted, so you have to use chat to be able to communicate with us. Raise your hand. We'll monitor the chat box and hopefully be able to get back to you. So ask questions along the way. We want to get your feedback. Make sure that you can see everything and hear everything loud and clear. The survey at the end, we look forward to your feedback. There's all kinds of great input you guys had to our content that we're presenting. So we really appreciate that. Keep that coming. And if you ever need to look at our old webinars, you want to share it with some friends because you like some of the content, or you have an employee that couldn't make it and you want to share it with them, you can look at that at our navigate.com resources videos, where we have all of our previous webinars posted. So today, what are we going to cover? We have some highlights, not all 3,500 highlights, because if we did that, we'd have to talk like auctioneers, and neither Jen nor I are very good at doing that. But there are over 3,500 enhancements and defect fixes in OnBase 17. So they've done a whole lot of work to make it look, feel, and be better. And we've grabbed a pile of those changes and put them into this presentation to get some of the highlights for the most used modules in OnBase. Obviously, we're also going to include some resources that go along with it so that you can see where things are going to lie for where if you need to find out more information, because obviously we're not going to cover every little detail, but there will be tons of resources at the end that you can use to find out more information. We're also going to cover how you can find out what specifically has changed in OnBase 17 from where you are today in your current release through creating a simple report and leveraging that to be able to determine where you can focus in on your testing and planning for implementing OnBase 17. Follow that up with a little bit on how should you be doing your testing for OnBase 17 and some upgrade strategies. And last but not least, how do you get started? So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Miss Jennifer to talk a little bit about OnBase 17.
Well, thank you, Chris. Yeah, we're going to get started talking about some of the basic things that you will find that you will see automatically when you open the 17 client. I like this quote that Chris picked out: "What is coming is better than what is gone." So we always hope that everything that we move forward with is going to be better than what we left. So they gave the web client by far its biggest new look change in version 17. So as you can see, it's got a totally different layout than the web client had before. It has what they call a hamburger menu right next to document retrieval there. When you click on that, it will give you all the options. As you can see in this list, all the options of what you have available to you. So this is where you would, if you needed to create a new form or upload a document, go to workflow, this is all under this window now. So, and the color scheme was changed with the web client. As you will see, as we move through other clients, the Unity client also got this change to the color scheme also. As you can see here, the icons at the top are all different. It now has a file menu, which we'll show you in a little demo in just a minute. That is totally different than previous versions of the Unity client. Everything is, different things are housed under there now, like user options and a few other things. So we're going to go ahead and show you kind of a little demo. Oh, I guess not. We have a demo coming up of Unity Forms. So in Unity Forms, they made some changes allowing for you to do some different formatting now. And if you've done anything with Unity Forms in the past, you've always been able to add 3 panels across a Unity form to add information horizontally. But now they're going to allow you to be able to split it up into 10 different cells across the length of your Unity form. And as you can see, they're also going to allow with percent width. So in previous versions, you could only have 3 and the widths were determined for you. You didn't get a chance to change those. But they're going to give you a lot more options in version 17 as far as Unity Forms go. Another formatting change is adding hyperlinks, which we are going to show you in a demo how to add one of those to a Unity form.
And how nice is it that you don't have to embed panels inside panels to try to divvy up your screen to get the real estate exactly the way you want. Now, it does not allow for total width greater than 100%. So you may see in there right now it's at 96% in this little screenshot example, but you cannot go over 100. And if you try to go over 100, it will yell at you and make you change your column widths to equal 100 or less.
So a few other things that they've added to Unity Forms is the template management, which is huge for anybody who does a lot of Unity Forms. You can now create templates as drafts. You can copy templates. You can delete templates. You can take your draft and publish that draft as a template. So there's a lot more options to what you can do within the Unity form interface to keep track of all of your Unity forms. And if you're using a Unity form that's basically the same, but just a few minor changes for several different departments, the copy feature would be really great. It would save you a lot of time and energy to get those out in a pretty quick fashion.
Which I can't believe we finally can delete a template that was, well, maybe out of date or was just a test one. You were just trying it as an admin and you wanted to play with it, and now you can actually get rid of it, which is fantastic. I'm so excited about that one myself. And that image rendering is really geared around being able to share Unity forms, because obviously if you don't have the Unity client or the web client, you couldn't see what that looked like. So the OnBase Thick client, for example, doesn't render that Unity form. However, now they offer an image rendering in PDF or TIFF format. So you can actually share a PDF rendition of the form, which is nice for being more universally sharing.
And they've also added the CAPTCHA support. That's how it's pronounced. So as you can see here, we got a screenshot of it, the I am not a robot. So that is now, you now have the ability to add that to your forms as of 17.
And I love how everybody who does the CAPTCHA discussion always goes into robot language mode to talk like a robot.
Well, I have a 7-year-old at home, so we talk like robots all the time. So we're going to go through and show you a little demo of the adding a hyperlink to a form. So as you can see here, we're going to go to the File menu.
Essentially, Hyland moved the menu from the OnBase logo to a File menu. Be a little more traditional.
Yep. So we go ahead and open a Unity form just like we always did. And in this case, we are going to add a hyperlink to our careers page to the position. So that way, if you want to look back at the position that you're applying for in this Unity form instance, you'll be able to get there straight from the column or the header, form header position.
And obviously from a formatting perspective, you can do just about anything you want, from picking colors, italicizing bold, your fonts, and even copying and pasting and picking different sizes. So we're just showing you a couple of the different features there. So now we've clicked and added the hyperlink to our page, making that particular field required, adding the red asterisk, and then of course taking it for a test drive, one of the best features of a Unity form. And while filling out that form, just like before, you can type in the required fields. And of course, these forms still can be shared directly on your website, so you can create the link and share it directly on an intranet or extranet page. But allowing for these headers to be extended beyond OnBase and beyond the borders and going out to any URL via this hyperlink, as here you can see one to the Navient career page. You could use this for instructions. You could use this for procedural things so that you can ensure that the person filling out that particular form has all the information needed to complete that section. So there's a lot of different use cases for being able to fill it out and complete it. This is just one example of how you can link to external data or particular forms that you could use to make your user's life easier and ensure that you're getting good data captured at the form level. All right, so tons of great things in Unity Forms. Obviously, Unity Forms is one of my favorite ones, so I highly encourage you to dig in and enjoy some of these nice new features and functions. Obviously, on your existing forms, any of the old forms you have will retain the old formatting. Any of the new formatting that you generate and publish will go under the new. So just keep that in mind. All the old will stay the old, all the new gets all the new. Studio got a couple of additional items. The first thing it got is you can create custom scan queues used in Capture Process Designer. It's a couple of new things entirely, right? So OnBase Studio is where they're adding a lot more of the configuration and where we've done OnBase workflow and Unity life cycles and work view for quite a long time. It's been in several versions. It's all been done in Studio, and so you're getting pretty comfortable with doing that, including all the notifications. Well, now they've added Capture Process Designer, which is an integral part if you're going to do any OCR processing, or if you're going to use ICAP, which is Intelligent Capture for Accounts Payable. Any of these advanced processes can go through a capture process. The Capture Process Designer allows you to take different states, like say index documents, and route them in and manage those batches or documents directly. And so what they added in OnBase 17 was the fact that scan queues historically built in OnBase configuration can now be added directly to via Studio and in the capture process. It's a nice little feature. It makes it easier because while you're building your capture process, having those scan queues that are custom scan queues, which many of you may have seen, there's a new custom box in 16 that first came out. When you're building your scan queue, if you set it to custom, it makes it be a special scan queue, kind of like a Unity lifecycle in workflow. And that specialness makes it capable of being added to a capture process that you build. When you do the process, you'll get this create scan queue. You have to, of course, give it a name and apply a disk group just like any other scan queue. And that pops open a window with these parameters. So you can add, of course, your user groups, your doc types, update the auto name string, and then apply whether you want to create thumbnails, do you want to run delayed disk group migration or auto save rotation. So it's kind of a scan queue light configuration. For those of you who have ever built a scan queue in OnBase configuration, you know there are many checkboxes. I've lost count, but I thought last time it was about 1,400 checkboxes between all the different tabs. plus or minus a couple. And so this is a very, very streamlined process for building a quick scan queue that you're going to ultimately use as part of your capture process design. Additionally, the Studio got a little overhaul in performance. You're going to hear that throughout. The Unity client performs faster, anywhere from 15 to 45%. The Studio also got improved performance, and basically it does an on-demand when you load the apps, right? So when it's first in the loading, rather than giving you everything and dumping it locally, it's going to load only on demand. So when you expand a workflow, when you expand a work view application, it's going to then load that information and push Workflow Doctor to run in the background so that when you load in, say, a workflow lifecycle, it'll then execute the Workflow Doctor, improving the overall performance. And speaking of workflow and OnBase Studio, one huge addition to OnBase Workflow in 17 is this concept of parallel processing with a parent and child items. So in this example, you'll see that the lifecycle A contains an invoice, and lifecycle B can contain multiple other objects. So you can actually have it set properties and do things in multitude to route, say, approval letters, an approval notification, and other things. And it's going to sit, lifecycle A, the invoice is going to sit until all of lifecycle B's items that are parallel processing are being done. So if you sent out 3 different approvals that needed to be completed prior to that invoice being completed and being routed out for payment, it's going to wait for all 3 of those to be completed. So it used to be done before. We built those many, many times, and some of you that have our AP solutions know we've done that in the past. It was just a lot more difficult to build because you had to basically jump through more hoops, where now Hyland said, well, I see why you want to do that. It makes perfect sense. So let's build it in where we can spawn these child processes off of a parent and have those approvals go out and not have the parent move until all the children are done. It's a fantastic addition to workflow. There's so many business cases where you want to have that functionality where you sent something else out, you're waiting for that response back before the primary document can move on. This is an invoice processing one. It's just one example, but feel free to apply that everywhere, and it just streamlines how fast you can deploy that type of solution where you need to have parallel processing. Another huge addition for our friends, any case management or work view applications, where you can set multiple properties with one work view action. Because before, there were many actions you had to create, and for those of you who built many workflows, you know that you have to do Control-A often to create every single one of those properties and put them into a work view. Now you can do it all in one, which is just fantastic. So one single action, many properties, a great addition for OnBase 17. Another big addition to workflow ties into our friend distribution service and notifications, because email notifications are very common. They've of course been in OnBase workflow for a long time. That's when you create an action to send an email notification to somebody indicating either they need to take action on a particular item or notify them that an action has been completed, for example. Now, not only can you do, the first thing they've added is the ability to track that notification. So before it would send, right, and it goes to the distribution service, which goes through your SMTP server and goes out to the World Wide Web, and you hope somebody got it, but you weren't really sure. Well, now they've added rules and actions to check to make sure the notification completed. Now that does not guarantee that the other person received it or that the other person received it, opened it, and understood it, but it does guarantee and add the ability to check to say, yes, it hit my SMTP server and it left my SMTP server. So it made it out. As far as we know, they've gotten it versus not knowing that little bit before. And so you can enable that. You can see there's a tracking tab now on your notification action. So send notification tracking, set the property, and then you can evaluate that property to make sure that it actually completed. And if not, you can of course put it to an exception rule or have it do a retry to make sure that it gets out. It's a fantastic add for sending out your information and making sure that it got there. One other thing they added, and I apologize, I jumped forward there, is they added the ability to take that message that you just sent and verify that it went out and archive it into OnBase. So you can take that notification and add it directly back into OnBase, which I believe you're going to see in a screen just ahead, but that whole notification process has been significantly enhanced in workflow for OnBase 17. Now, in addition, the workflow timer service, all of you who've ever built a workflow created a timer, and that timer is just out there to track and verify things are happening at a particular time. Oftentimes, a timer is used to get away from having things happen in system work because you want the server to manage those processes and those connections. So those are still going to, of course, be available. The big difference is the Unity Scheduler, which is not technically an OnBase 17 release. It was actually introduced in OnBase 16. On OnBase 17, of course, they've enhanced it, and I've included a screenshot here so you can see what one looks like, because the look and feel is a little bit different. It's called the Unity Management Console, and it handles all of your workflow timers in addition to many other things like exports of reporting dashboards, for example. You can schedule just about anything in this one central location, making administration extremely easy. You can create, of course, schedules and custom execution windows once and apply them to many timers and many scan queue, say, commits or reporting dashboard exports. So a fantastic tool that is going to become the way to do all of your scheduling in OnBase 18. So OnBase 17 is the last time you can use the old traditional workflow timer service. So for those of you that are fearful of change, you want to get to OnBase 17 because it's the last time that the workflow timer service will be in existence, because everything is moving to, by OnBase 18, the Unity Scheduler, which will become your best friend. And as you can see on the screen, it's fairly intuitive. It just takes a little bit of getting used to, is from the perspective of building up your task groups and adding tasks to those groups, creating your schedules and creating your execution windows. But the interface is very easy to work with. So I encourage you to, at least in your test systems, migrate your timers to the Unity Scheduler. So notifications. Here's a screenshot I teased you with earlier related to archiving emails. So you finally send these email notifications. You can track them and say, yep, they got them. Now you can actually take that notification, exactly what was sent, and archive it into OnBase. You can tell on the upper right-hand corner, you can also pick what document type it archives to, and if you want to archive the attachments of that email notification that you sent out from your workflow. It's a fantastic addition for when you need to preserve and retain from any of your communications to, say, customers who, say, maybe applied for a brand new bank account or a loan app or any of those types of communications where you send something back and you want that verification that, yes, we sent this and this is exactly what we sent and when we sent it. You have that ability now to retain all of that information and not just the history that, yes, something was sent, but the actual notification gets preserved. You also have the ability to add UPOP links to notifications as a token. So the %UPOP gets added in, and you can specify whether or not you want to go to a specific queue or just the life cycle, or even to, like in this case, a work item in a queue. So you can take it directly to that level. Very nice addition for all of our Unity client users. Distribution service. This is what allows your notifications to get out. And historically, we've configured those directly in a configuration file that's set on your server. And Hyland has taken the kindness and moved it into the configuration module. So here you can see the distribution service settings window where you can have maximum, you can set parameters like maximum number of recipients. This temporary cache is now a required piece where you have to say where you're going to temporarily store this while the email message is being written out. You have your default sender, which of course was a previous setting we always had to add in. The display name of who you want as that recipient. It could be no reply, for example. How often you want to pull. And they've added 3 new buttons. Test notification existed in OnBase 16. It's a fantastic addition. But the email server settings, you have to put in your IP address and the port. Port 25 is being the standard SMTP port. If you have to add encryption, you have that capability, or any server authentication can be added directly within the user interface.
Yeah, that's a nice addition, Chris, because you used to have you couldn't use authentication in previous versions, and now you have the ability to authenticate as a user that's on your mail server.
Right. And the SSL is another huge addition to that was not previously available. So for anybody that had secure SMTP mail traffic, now that it has that capability in OnBase 17. And this is what the bottom right hand corner just shows you what that test notification looks like, and you can put in any address to get that test notification. And of course you can put a doc handle in if you want to see what an attachment looks like on that notification. But it's a quick verification that the SMTP information that you've entered and that the temporary cache location is accessible from the service account running your distribution service all are working and functioning properly directly within this interface. So it makes it a lot easier than the old school way where you had to set up a workflow task to do it and run it and execute it and make sure that it ran and look at the history of the document to say it went, where here you can do it all in one fell swoop, all your configuration settings in one handy area.
Yeah, and it's nice that it allows you to add a document handle, and you can see exactly what it's going to look like if a document is attached, and it's a great feature. I just used it yesterday to test a distribution myself. So now we're going to talk about document imaging. So they have made a few changes to the OnBase client for document imaging, as well as the Unity client, and then they've made a few changes also to the web client scanning, but we don't have very many users that use that. So we're going to focus in on the OnBase client and the Unity client. So in a previous version of OnBase, you were able to set up these notifications that you could configure to tell you what a batch status is at, or based off a batch status. So this was a great addition, and a lot of customers really like this to know if something failed or something went to incomplete commit, or they could get these notifications sent. Well, they've now enhanced this a little bit more and added status for a number of hours. So if you have specs that you want documents through certain queues within your scanning process at a certain amount of time, you can set this up and be given those emails or those notifications when that number of hours has been reached. They've also, so in the past, you were able to do this for only scanned batches, but you now can do this from scan from disk and also scheduled sweeps. So, which is a great enhancement for people who are doing stuff that are not necessarily scanning everything at the scan station connected to their OnBase client. They've also updated all of the icons and buttons in the indexing panel. You can see this down below. And in the Unity client, it looks exactly the same, which you will see on the next slide. So they are now trying to go across all three platforms and make all icons and buttons look very similar so that you have the same look and feel as you move across different OnBase clients. The add and remove doc types from scan queues. So now if you've ever done document type maintenance or configuration, there is now a new button in there called scan queues. So you can add your one document type to, if you needed to add that document type to 10 scan queues, you can do it all in one place instead of in the past having to go into each scan queue and click the document type button and add it. You can now go to the specific document type and add all the scan queues that it needs to be a part of, which is a great feature for people that have multiple document types in their scan queues.
And I love the SLA for the number of hours waiting for a batch to be completed, so that mailroom processing, or if you have MFP devices that you do decentralized scanning where it's being all brought into a particular queue and can be monitored that way, is fantastic.
And like Chris mentioned earlier, so the Unity client did get a lot of improvements in communication, and scanning is one of the places where they did a lot of a lot to improve the communication between the application and the scanner, so that it doesn't take as long to scan, and the scanner, it picks up the scanner much more easily, and you'll have less lag when it comes to scanning within the Unity client. As you can see, the Unity client, it's got the new toolbar, so that is present here in the scanning panel. It also has down below, you can see the same icons and buttons, very similar to what you saw in the screenshot of the thick client. They've also added where you can add scan formats to be marked as favorites in the scan format panel. And then you can now have the ability, these bottom two are new, the status of the data capture server. So if you are OCRing documents and using the data capture server to do that, in the upper right-hand corner of this panel, you can see it says data capture server. And in this case, it says unavailable. But that will help you to be able to monitor whether, if something is going on and you're expecting this document to be OCR'd and that's unavailable, that might be something you need somebody needs to look into. The other thing is there's also another checkbox that, as Chris was saying, all the checkboxes, the ability to enable previews during sweep. So there's now a checkbox where you can, when you're doing a sweep of a directory, you can preview those documents. In past versions, you saw a bar go across that said all the documents were coming in, but you actually never saw the documents until you went to index them. Now we're going to talk about folders and file cabinets. So they did a lot of improvements to folders and file cabinets in the web client. So like you were able to do in the Unity client, group by column headers, which list with custom query filters, you can now do this in the web client. So if you have web client users that are using, maybe in your HR department, that are using lots of file cabinets and folders, this will be great for them because it gives them a lot more options of what they can do and how they can see their information. They now have the option to print from the right-click menu multiple documents. So you can select multiple documents within the folders and file cabinets in the web client now. As you can see here, they marked 3 or 4 documents to be printed, and then you can go ahead and print them straight from the web client, which is a great improvement than having to print them one at a time. And another new feature is tabs. So if you have ever used folders and you had tabs, they always had to be, all your tabs were on the right-hand side of the screen. You now get the option to put those tabs wherever you'd like. So within the configuration of your foldering, you can determine whether you want the tabs to go across the top, across the bottom, on the left side, or the right side, which is great, a great new feature for people who want it to look more like what they're used to seeing in a typical file cabinet.
So in addition, OnBase Mobile got some lovely new enhancements for both the iPad, iPhone, and Windows. On the right, you can see we've got an example of what the iPhone looks like. The PDF. So the three major things that got added into mobile, which mobile gives you access to custom queries, your workflow, Unity forms. You can also take documents offline, which is really nice if you're going to be remote, say flying. But now they have the ability to have support for PDF bookmarks. So any of your large documents where you have bookmarks, to make navigating through on a mobile device much easier, that has been added in OnBase 17. Also, for those of you using cascading data sets, those are those data sets that narrow down a subset of information. For example, you only want to see, if you're filling out a form and you want to see all of the cities for a particular state. So as soon as you pick Wisconsin, for example, you'd only see the cities for Wisconsin. And then once you do that, you'd pick, you'd be able to cascade down each level until you had all of them done. Those cascading data sets were never available in the mobile client, and now they are, which is fantastic. And the last item that they added was the support for login banners. So login banners came out in 16. You were able to add in login banners to show on the Unity client, the web client, or the OnBase Thick client important information. Sometimes that was security information saying if you're not an authorized user, do not access. Or they could be simple messages saying, hey, we're going to be doing an upgrade to OnBase 17. Beware, that's going to be coming up this weekend. You can set up a time frame to show those banners. And those all become available directly within the mobile client now as well. So if you have primarily mobile users, a mobile workforce that needs to be able to see that information, you can push that out to the mobile client now in OnBase 17. So document composition. For those of you that have document comp, this is a fantastic module that allows for the ease of creating of documents, say offer letters, maybe even some notices for late payment that can be automated and generated through OnBase workflow and the OnBase tools to make creation of these letters very simple. You can have static text, you could use keywords, you could have many ways to add in context in order to make these templates and these fragments added together to create a letter for your end user. And in OnBase 17, they put in a lot of enhancements to this particular feature. If you haven't used this feature yet, I highly encourage you to look at it because almost every business has a need to generate some form of letters. And they've created now, it made it even easier and included several things. For example, as Jen showed you in the other clients, they've modernized the toolbar and streamlined all the graphics so you have the same kind of look and feel. And you can see in this example that the template builder is there. It denotes all the different parts that you can add into a Word document that creates your template. They've added controls for placeholders so you can have multiple repeating placeholders so you can actually nest in components. So you can actually do quite a bit of additional items where before, if you wanted to have a keyword, you might have multiple instance keywords, you know, I had that repeating data, you had to add that in individually and it just became much more complex. They streamlined that entire process. You can also have the output be standard, of course, Word, but you can also have it be a standard PDF, a PDF 1A or 1B, so you have different formats so you can actually have it be for the output. And of course, the nice option of the end user gets to be able to view the document, that it gets archived in OnBase without doing any additional searches. So before it would generate it, and then you had to go find it. So the end user had to do an extra step of go find that thing and validate that it was 100% correct, where now you can actually do the preview right at that moment and validate that it's all good, make any changes on the fly that you want to make, and then actually have it be sent out. Outlook integration. Of course, as with all of them, they standardize the look and feel, the new user interface, the top ribbon bar. The number of buttons has really remained the same from the perspective of you can do custom queries, basic document retrieval, workflow, work view, the reading groups that was added in 16, and launch a client, Unity forms. So those features are the same now, of course, just that new look and feel to match up with whether you're a web client user, Unity client user, or Outlook integration, which is Liz Skolaski's favorite module. So I gotta give her a shout out. She's gonna love this one. The big addition to Outlook integration is the ability to attach OnBase advanced mail features. So when you look down below in the second screenshot, you can see we can attach an encrypted PDF, an unencrypted PDF. You can do the standard default TIFF format. You can put it back to its native format. So you have some of these attached from OnBase. You can delete all. You can pick multiples and have them all be in a standard format added to your email message. So it's a very nice advanced mail feature that they added into beyond just the new look and feel of the Outlook integration module.
Just like every all of the modules, App Enabler got a overhaul in its icons also with version 17. As you can see here in the top, the icons all kind of mimic the icons that are present with the regular client. They now, or if you're using, excuse me, if you're using the live mode count window, you can see you still get the count number. You can hover over, you can see the results on the bottom. It's 1 of 5 documents selected, so you know that there's 5 documents that match your search results. As you can, just like in other ones, you could retrieve or use a custom query to bring back those documents. But this gives you the idea of how many documents you're looking at, so you know if there's more than just the one document it's presenting you at that time, which is a great feature. This new feature, I know there's going to be a lot of people that like, and I'm pretty excited about, is being able to run Unity scripts. So for a long time, you could run VB scripts from App Enabler. And now you get the option to be able to run Unity scripts. So this gives you a lot more options and different things you can do with the data that you scrape from these third-party applications. You can bring that data in, bring it into keywords, document handle, system dates, Unity forms, work view. So it gives you a lot more options than you had the ability to do with a VB script. So this is a very exciting one, and one that we here at Navient have been waiting for quite a while. And then there's the AE connector, which was actually introduced in 16, but not too many people have adopted it. So it works with your third-party apps just like the OnBase App Enabler does. It gives you a lot more options. So if in the past you were unable to be able to scrape from certain third-party applications, there's a good chance that using this connector will give you a lot better improved capabilities to be able to leverage it to scrape from your third-party applications. It does also leverage web service calls that are stored in that XML file that we configure. So that gives you more options and a lot more flexibility when trying to be able to scrape from your third-party applications into OnBase for either indexing or retrieval.
Reporting dashboards, one of my favorite modules because it's so cool. And obviously in OnBase 16, you know that they actually could go out and query third-party databases. So you could use like a SQL query to report on more than just what's in OnBase. You could actually report on other systems. I know internally we use it in our CRM system to monitor data that's contained in there. But Hyland's added several new in OnBase 17 data providers. So for example, document imaging, now there's a built-in timing queue and time to process. So you can see how long does it take to get a batch through my document imaging process. For our government folks, the plan review and agenda and minutes modules got direct connects data providers built in. So you could use SQL to get that data, but now they've actually built in those data providers, making it very easy to get that information into a dashboard. Additionally, there's some updated data providers, so the workflow activity. This one actually can filter results based on when it entered and exited a queue, which is fantastic. So if you want to see how long is something taking in a particular queue to see if maybe we need to review and update that workflow process, or do you have the right staffing to monitor that particular queue. Additionally, the document query, so the geospatial, you'll hear a lot about Esri and the Esri integration, where you can use geolocation, latitude, longitude, altitude bearings, geolocation information to be able to track where things have happened. That all has now been added into the document query data provider for reporting dashboards. A couple other quick little things for reporting dashboards. The ability to consolidate shared parameters across multiple data providers It's a simple checkbox, as highlighted in the upper right-hand image. You also have the ability to take and create a print preview and export to either PDF or image of a particular segment. So you can grab, like in this case, it's a pie chart for invoices for each queue. Where is it sitting? You can actually export that piece as a PDF or an image file, which is fantastic. Or you can do the entire dashboard. So you have some choices now on how much data you want to export and in what format you want to do that in. And last but not least, one of the coolest features is the ability to have your reporting dashboard available to your web client users. So previously they either had to have the Unity client or they had to leverage the web reporting dashboard's web viewer. So that's still available. The web viewer runs in its own IIS, and you can kick that out, which is fantastic if you want to share information to external people, for example, but you don't want to have them, say, install a Unity client and log in, but you just want them to see that dashboard. And that information, that's still available. But for your web client users, rather than pushing the Unity client out to them, they can actually see all the dashboards that you share with them. And the same, similar look and feel to what they would have in the Unity client, but all available via the web. And that is just the beginning of the 3,500 plus changes available in OnBase 17. We've barely clipped the tip of that iceberg. There is so much more to see and do, and we're going to give you information on how to find that in just a few minutes.
All right, so how do I know what's changed for me? So the only way to make sense out of change is to plunge into it, move with it, and join the dance. Ain't that perfect? Things are going to change whether you want them to or not, so might as well enjoy it. So this came out several versions ago now, but Hyland has given us a tool, and it's on the community, that allows us to create a report that, based off what version we are on now and what version we are going to, and what modules we own and use, gives you all the different changes that have been made based off that information. So you can see I have a link here, the what's new, and you may have heard it called a Delta report. That's another name for this report that we're going to run. We're going to go ahead and show you where you can find it and how you can go ahead and run it.
And that report does not guarantee that you use all those modules, but they're all the ones you're licensed
for.
We hope you use them all.
Yep. So if you go into your community, you can see here, if you click on My OnBase, what's new. And you'll go, like for us, we, as a reseller, we have all of our customers. So in this case, we picked First Farm Credit, and they are running 15 Service Pack 1. So as you can see here, we're going to search for both thick client SCRs and core-based SCRs. And here are all the modules that that client has. Now, as you can see here, if there's something that you're thinking about getting, you could select that here so that you can see what changes are with that. This gives you the software corrections, enhancements, and upgrade considerations, which gives you a whole lot of different information based off everything that you have and everything that you should consider if you're going to do an upgrade. You can see you can group this result, so you can regroup it by product or by build. So we're in this case going to group it by product, so everything for each product will go together. Once we do that, you can see here, we opened up one and we can see all the different things that we should consider when upgrading DDS. So they give you a lot of different information. As you can tell, this is probably going to be a very large document. So we can go ahead and export it to a PDF. And then all this information will be available in a PDF that you can send to people if you're with a group of people trying to decide if you're going to go to 17 or not. You can see this is kind of what it looks like, very large at this point, 600 pages. But it will give you all the different things to consider for doing an upgrade, all grouped together, gives you an overview, and then everything else that you should think about when you're going to do an upgrade. So it's a great tool and gives you a lot of things to think about, a lot of changes if you're waiting for something particular. Maybe this will tell you that it's there or not. But it's a great tool when you're thinking about upgrading.
And those upgrade considerations are new as of 17, and it takes basically the support issues and their professional services groups information, and it compiles it in here as part of it. So if they found that customers like yourself called in on an issue more than once, and they found it to be valuable, they add it here so that other basically can learn from each other. Or the professional services group was doing an OnBase 17 deployment, they encountered something, they wanted to make sure that information was shared. So it's a fantastic resource. While it can get quite large, you can do searches in there to find out the specific things you want. And I do recommend breaking it down maybe by core and thick client, and then you can do one by user interface, so run it a couple of times to break down the information into a little bit more manageable chunks, but this is everything. So you have all of it available to you in a moment's notice. So now that you've seen all these many of the amazing changes in OnBase 17, you're very excited to go to OnBase 17. And you've got the Delta report, which gives you all the information of all the things for you specifically that are going to change and be enhanced by upgrading. How do you go about doing that? And one of the big things is you have to have a plan and a strategy, because a goal without a plan is just a wish. So we don't want you just wishing for OnBase 17. We actually want you to have a plan and a goal to achieve upgrading to OnBase 17. Now your plan should be fairly comprehensive and structured. Obviously, you want to look at items that you need to do testing. And in general, test everything. That includes your document ingestion processing, whether you have cold, dip, scanning. How do you get your items in? You want to test that. You want to make sure your user interface, you test for the various clients you have deployed, whether it's the web, Unity, or thick. You also want to do any workflow testing, right? So you want to hit those high-level cases and make sure that you've addressed those critical business areas that would be affected by the upgrade itself. And create those test scripts in written format. You want to have what the expected results are and what your actual results are and when was it tested and who did it. So you have that verification process. It doesn't have to be overly complex, but it does need to be done, right? One big OnBase 17 enhancement that makes life for testing a lot easier is in OnBase OnBase Studio. If you don't have workflow items or you want to generate a whole pile of items, they've actually increased the item generator functionality to include a stress test. So you can actually do, as you can see, 9,999,999 documents with a single generator. So say you want to create that many Unity forms as a sample to dump into workflow. That creates what's called as an item generator batch. You can do your testing on that many items, and then you can actually delete that batch. So it gives you a full batch administration. So if you want to generate them, do all your testing for your end users and your timers, you found out everything is working great, you purge that batch so they're not all sitting in your test system. But a fantastic tool that should be leveraged whenever you're going to be doing an upgrade. A couple things for the template, so you can do, obviously you want to define all the terms and conditions related to what are we actually trying to achieve, what are the goals, what's the scope of those tests for those various business areas that are affected, and then what are potential risks, right? So are there any direct APIs, any other third-party systems you're integrating with application enabler or say an autofill keyword set, and then following those data flows through and putting together a schedule so that you can manage that test plan to that schedule. And if you have a test lab created or obviously IT resources involved for maybe some new servers or upgrading your servers at the same time you do your OnBase upgrade, so maybe you want to go to SQL 2016, you have those resources, your DBA available to do that. Fill all those out and you'll almost ensure to have a successful upgrade to OnBase 17. And this is just a basic template that you can get to use. Obviously, you can create your own. if there are any defect and defect tracking. So if they tested something and it didn't work as expected, they didn't get the expected result, what did they get? And then we can look at how to fix it. Because there are, of course, features and functions that have changed. Maybe it just needs to be an update in configuration, or perhaps it's a training issue. So Jen, how do they get started?
Well, we've actually created a nice little Unity form for this. So if you don't have to be great to start, but you have to start to be great, which is a great quote because you're not going to get anywhere unless you start. So out on our website, on our customer portal, we have created a new form to request an upgrade. So you can go right out to our website, and we've shared out this Unity form. And you can go ahead and fill it out. We'll go through the process here and show you what all needs to be filled out. So when you click on the link, it's going to bring up the document, and you're going to want to fill out the customer, your name, first and last, your email address and phone number, and then if you would like us to help you with the upgrade, so if you just need download files, you would select no in this case, but if you're going to do it yourself. But if you would like an estimate for us to do it for you, you would go ahead and select yes. If you'd like to use your bank of hours, you would here select yes if you are a support customer. If not, it's defaulted to no. If you have, so here is the environments you would choose depending on what you have. So if you have a test in a production environment, you would put those here. If you have, maybe you have 3 environments, you would add all 3. Whether you want it to be during business hours or after hours, and then whether you want us to be on site or done remotely. And then we ask that you add any special notes or any other comments or information that you would like to add about each of these environments. And then down below here, it talks about whether you're going to be using existing hardware or new hardware. And so if you are going to be using new hardware, we just want some information about what that new hardware is going to be, so we can give you a better estimate of how much time it will take to be able to complete the upgrade. Once this is completed, you would go ahead and submit the form. It then comes into our workflow where we estimate it and then send it back to you for acceptance and signature, and then we can go ahead and schedule that upgrade. So as always, OnBase online resources, our blog has always got a plethora of information out there for you. So you can always look there first, and then OnBase community always has some stuff. They have lots of self-paced learning and activities you can do within the community, so that you can find out more about 17 and about other parts of OnBase. For 17, there is this lovely gallery of videos and PowerPoint presentations that give you all the information of what has changed in each specific module. So this is a great resource, and a great place to go to learn more and more about the different things that have changed in 17.
And they include not just the product categories like capture, manage, access, or specific modules like document composition, but they also include industry-specific things like government and healthcare. So you can find out the information a couple of different ways, making it very, very easy to know what's coming in OnBase 17. Do we have any questions? No, we had one earlier. If you do have more questions, you definitely know how to get a hold of us.
So as we've been talking about, the current version of OnBase 17 is 17.045. Kofax capture is still 10, and VRS is still the VRS Elite. And then Teleforms and Brainware actually just upgraded recently to 5.7 SP2. And another thing I wanted to mention was that Guy Schrader here is going to be doing a webinar on August 17th about the new user interface enhancements for 17. So we just kind of did a small overview of what those user enhancements are, and he's going to go into a little bit more detail about the new client interfaces that were announced with OnBase 17.
Directly related to the end user interface. So
yeah.
Not the stuff behind the scenes like we showed you, but the upfront stuff for the end users.
Our next support webinar will be September 20th. We're looking to talk about intelligent capture for AP. And then, as always, our Navient Summit Conference will be October 16th and 17th at the Potawatomi Hotel and Casino in Milwaukee, Wisconsin.
We hope to see you there.
And as always, these are all the ways you can get a hold of us. So support@navient.com. You can call us, or you can go out to our website. As you can see from that customer portal page where you could submit a request for an upgrade, you can also submit software issue requests from there also. So there are many different ways to get a hold of us. Also from our website, there's also our chat. So from that website, you can get to our chat window and chat with us too. So there's lots of different ways to contact support. But thank you again today. We enjoy presenting all this information to you, and we look forward to seeing you at our next webinar.
Have a great day, everybody.